Hello, I'm Natalie Wood. This is one of my favorite books, Marjorie Morningstar.
For more than 4 decades, the tragic death of Hollywood legend Natalie Wood has remained one of the most haunting and unsolved mysteries in entertainment history. Found drowned off the coast of California in 1981, her death was officially ruled an accident. But questions have never stopped. Behind the glamour, the fame, and the beautiful photos was a storm brewing in her private life, one that her family had long tried to forget. But now, at 79 years old, Natalie's sister has finally broken her silence. And what she confessed has shocked even those who thought they knew the full story. In a raw and emotional interview, she revealed that long before that fateful night on the yacht, she had begged Natalie to leave Robert Wagner. The world knew them as one of Hollywood's most beautiful couples, the golden pair whose love seemed unbreakable, but behind the cameras things weren't as perfect as they appeared. According to her sister, Natalie confided that her marriage was marked by tension, jealousy, and fear. "I told her to get out," her sister admitted, her voice trembling. "I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't happy, she was scared. But she wouldn't listen. She said she still loved him, and she thought things would get better." Those heartbreaking words have reignited long-standing suspicions about what really happened the night Natalie died. Her sister's confession paints a chilling picture of a woman torn between love and fear, trapped in a relationship that may have cost her everything. Now, decades later, this revelation forces Hollywood and the world to look again at a story that refuses to rest. Was Natalie's death truly an accident? Or was it the tragic ending to warnings that went unheeded? For Natalie's sister, speaking out after all these years wasn't about revenge, it was about peace. But her confession may have just reopened the most enduring mystery in Hollywood history. The night was quiet, but Natalie Wood's sister, Lana, couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was coming. Even after all these years, that feeling still haunts her. She remembers sitting across from Natalie, watching her stir her tea in silence, her eyes distant, lost in a world of worry. It wasn't the confident, radiant movie star the world adored. It was her little sister, frightened, fragile, and trapped. To the public, Natalie and Robert Wagner were the perfect Hollywood couple. They met when she was just a teenager, and he was already one of the industry's rising stars. Their love story was the kind magazines dreamt of, beautiful, glamorous, and timeless. But behind closed doors, that fairy tale shimmer began to fade. Lana saw it before anyone else. She'd try to hide it, Lana later confessed. But sometimes, when the cameras were gone, she'd let her guard down. "I could see she wasn't happy." There were whispers, jealousy, arguments, moments when Robert's temper would flare over the smallest things. Natalie would brush it off, saying all couples fight, that she could handle it. But Lana knew better. She could see the toll it was taking. Natalie's once vibrant spark was dimming, replaced by nervous laughter and tired smiles. Then came the moment Lana could no longer stay silent. One evening, after another tension-filled dinner, Natalie broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she admitted that she didn't feel safe, that she felt trapped between love and fear. That's when Lana said the words that would echo in her mind for the rest of her life. "Natalie, please, leave him before it's too late." But Natalie just shook her head. "You don't understand," she whispered. "He loves me. He just gets angry sometimes. It's not who he really is." Lana wanted to believe her, but something deep down told her this wasn't going to end well. She begged Natalie to take a break, to step away from the spotlight and focus on her own happiness. But Natalie was loyal to a fault. She believed in fixing things, in second chances, in love conquering pain. When they remarried years later after a painful separation, Lana was stunned. "It felt like history repeating itself," she said. "I knew she still loved him, but I also knew love shouldn't hurt this much." Then came that fateful weekend in 1981, the boat trip with Robert Wagner and actor Christopher Walken. It was supposed to be a relaxing getaway, but it turned into one of Hollywood's darkest nights. When the news broke that Natalie had drowned, Lana's heart shattered. The woman she had begged to leave, the sister she tried to protect, was gone. For decades, Lana remained silent, carrying the weight of guilt and unanswered questions. But as she grew older, the truth began to burn inside her. She could no longer keep quiet. "I had to speak," she said, "not to hurt anyone, but to make peace with my sister's memory. People need to know that I tried." I begged her to leave him. I saw the fear in her eyes. Now, at 79, her confession has reignited the mystery surrounding Natalie Wood's death. Was it truly an accident, or was it the result of years of pain that went unnoticed? Lana's voice trembles when she speaks about that final warning, the one her sister didn't take. "I just wish she'd listened," she whispers. "Every photograph, every movie, every memory of Natalie now carries a shadow of what might have been. A life that could have been saved if love hadn't blinded her to danger." Lana's words are not just a confession. They are a cry for truth, a reminder that even in Hollywood's golden glow, darkness often hides in plain sight. It was supposed to be a peaceful weekend, a short escape from Hollywood's chaos. Natalie Wood, her husband Robert Wagner, and actor Christopher Walken boarded their yacht, the Splendor, off the coast of Catalina Island in late November 1981. To the public, it looked like a glamorous getaway. But for Natalie's sister Lana, the moment she heard about the trip, her stomach turned. "Something didn't feel right," she later confessed. It was like a dark cloud was hanging over that weekend. The evening began with laughter, music, and wine. Too much wine, some would say. As the night went on, witnesses from nearby boats reported hearing raised voices echoing across the water. According to accounts later shared, an argument had erupted between Wagner and Walken, supposedly about Natalie's career and her growing independence. Walken encouraged her to focus more on acting, to chase her ambitions again, while Wagner felt she should prioritize family. The tension that had been quietly building for years was finally boiling over. Natalie hated confrontation. She reportedly left the heated conversation, retreating below deck. But the fight didn't end there. At some point, she went missing. Hours later, her body was found floating in the cold Pacific waters, dressed in a nightgown, socks, and a jacket. The world awoke to headlines that didn't make sense. How could one of Hollywood's brightest stars simply fall overboard? When Lana received the phone call, she froze. "They said it was an accident," she recalled, her voice cracking. But in my heart, I knew something wasn't right. Natalie was terrified of dark water. She wouldn't go near it. Not alone, not at night. In the weeks that followed, the official story didn't add up. There were bruises on Natalie's body, unexplained marks, and conflicting statements about what really happened that night. Wagner claimed she must have gone out to retie a loose dinghy, but investigators and friends questioned that theory. "Natalie didn't even know how to operate that dinghy," Lana insisted. Years later, new witnesses came forward saying they heard shouting, a crash, and then silence. Some described hearing a woman's voice crying for help. Those sounds were carried by the waves, but never answered. Lana has replayed that night in her mind countless times, piecing together fragments of truth buried beneath years of fear and fame. "There's only one person who truly knows what happened," she said, and he never spoke. In 2011, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department reopened the case after fresh evidence emerged, changing Natalie's cause of death from accidental drowning to drowning and other undetermined factors. It was a small but powerful shift, an acknowledgement that too many questions were left unanswered. Lana watched the renewed investigation unfold with mixed emotions, hope that her sister's truth might finally be heard, and pain knowing it might never be fully uncovered. "Every time I see her face on the screen, I remember that weekend," she said softly. The laughter that turned to screaming. The love that turned to tragedy. Friends say Natalie had been planning to make big changes before her death. New roles, new projects, perhaps even a new start. She wanted to live her life again, Lana revealed. She was tired of pretending everything was perfect. For Lana, the most haunting part isn't just how Natalie died, it's that she saw the warning signs and couldn't save her. "I told her to leave," she whispered. "I told her something terrible was going to happen." And it did. That night on the Splendor remains one of Hollywood's darkest mysteries. But for Lana, it's not about the fame, the theories, or the rumors. It's about her sister, a woman who loved deeply, trusted too much, and never got the chance to tell her side of the story. "I'll keep fighting for her truth," Lana said, her eyes filled with tears. "Because Natalie deserves peace, and the world deserves to know what really happened that night." In the weeks after Natalie Wood's death, Hollywood moved quickly to quiet the storm. Headlines mourned the tragic accident. Glossy magazines printed smiling photos of Natalie and Robert Wagner from happier days, and the studios urged silence. To many in the industry, this was not just a tragedy. It was a scandal that could destroy reputations. And in 1981, Hollywood had mastered the art of making inconvenient truths disappear. For Lana Wood, that silence was deafening. "They didn't want questions," she later said. "They wanted closure, but I couldn't close my eyes and pretend everything was fine." From the very start, Lana noticed how neatly the story was packaged. Reporters were told Natalie slipped while trying to secure a dinghy. Robert Wagner's statement emphasized his grief and shock, insisting there was no foul play. Within days, that narrative became the accepted truth. The autopsy report was rushed, interviews with key witnesses were brief, and contradictory details were conveniently ignored. Lana wasn't buying it. The bruises, the scratches, the fear she'd felt before, it didn't add up, she said. But when I tried to speak up, people told me to stop. They said I was hurting her memory. Behind the scenes, Wagner's connections ran deep. He was one of Hollywood's elite, a man with powerful friends in studios, law enforcement, and the media. According to Lana, it felt as though everyone had a reason to protect him, or at least to protect the image of Hollywood's golden couple. They didn't want the world to see what was really happening behind those perfect smiles, she said bitterly. Even Christopher Walken, who was on the boat that night, stayed mostly silent. When pressed in interviews, he deflected. It was an accident, he'd say. That's all there is to it. But for Lana, those words only deepened the mystery. If it was an accident, she asked, why is everyone so afraid to talk? Then came the most chilling moment. A few weeks after the funeral, Lana received an anonymous phone call. The voice on the other end warned her to stop asking questions. They said, if you love your sister, let her rest. She hung up, shaken. But the message was clear. Someone didn't want the truth coming out. Years passed, and Natalie's story faded into Hollywood legend. Films celebrated her beauty, not her pain. Award shows honored her memory but never mentioned the unanswered questions. They turned her into a symbol, Lana said, but they buried her truth with her. Still, she never gave up. She collected documents, interviews, and witness statements. Anything that could prove her sister's death wasn't what it seemed. Many dismissed her as obsessed, even bitter. But when investigators reopened the case decades later, much of what she'd said suddenly made sense. I wasn't crazy, Lana said firmly. I was just telling the truth too soon. In 2018, Robert Wagner was officially named a person of interest in the reopened investigation. Detectives cited inconsistencies in his statements and witness reports that contradicted his version of events. But despite the renewed attention, no charges were filed. The truth, it seemed, remained just out of reach. To Lana, that was proof of how deeply Hollywood protects its own. They'll rewrite history before they'll admit one of their own could be guilty, she said. And my sister's story is the price of that silence. Even now, decades later, the pain hasn't faded. When Lana looks at old photos of Natalie, she sees both the beauty and the burden of being a Hollywood star. They made her into an icon, she said softly. But behind those eyes, there was a woman begging to be heard. For Lana, speaking out isn't about revenge. It's about justice. Natalie deserves the truth, even if it's uncomfortable, she insists. And I'll keep fighting until people see what really happened that night. No more cover-ups. No more lies. The question that still haunts Hollywood remains the same. If Natalie Wood's death truly was an accident, why has the truth been buried for so long? For Lana Wood, time never healed the wound. It only deepened the ache of questions left unanswered. Decades have passed since Natalie's body was pulled from the dark Pacific waters, yet every memory, every word, every glance between them still feels close enough to touch. People tell me to move on, she says softly. But how do you move on when your sister's truth is still buried? After years of silence, grief turned into purpose. Lana made a promise, to Natalie, to herself, and to the millions who still loved her, that she would never stop seeking the truth. But over time, her fight became more than a search for justice. It became a journey toward peace, a way to honor her sister not just for how she died, but for how she lived. Natalie Wood was more than a movie star. To her family, she was warmth and laughter, the woman who would cook dinner for everyone even after filming all day, who loved old records and long walks, who wrote notes of encouragement to her daughters. People saw glamour, Lana said, but I saw a heart bigger than any role she ever played. Still, every joyful memory is shadowed by regret. The night before Natalie left for that fateful trip, Lana had called her. They talked about the holidays, about her daughters, and about her new film. She sounded tired, Lana recalled, but happy to have a little escape. When the call ended, Lana almost said it again. "Please, don't go with him." But she didn't. "I thought I'd told her enough times already," she said, her eyes wet. "I didn't want to sound like I was nagging." That silence has haunted her ever since. Over the years, Lana found herself fighting two battles, one against Hollywood's powerful silence and another within herself. "I had to stop letting anger consume me," she admitted. Natalie wouldn't have wanted that. She loved deeply even those who hurt her. Instead of letting bitterness win, Lana turned her pain into advocacy. She began speaking publicly about domestic abuse and emotional manipulation, urging women not to ignore the signs she saw in her sister's life. "Natalie's story shouldn't just be a mystery, it should be a lesson," she said. "No one, no matter how famous or loved, should stay in a situation that feels unsafe." She also wrote about Natalie's real self, the dreamer, the devoted mother, the girl who used to sing by the window when it rained. "I wanted the world to see her heart, not just her tragedy," Lana explained, "because that's how I remember her." Now, at 79, Lana says she's finally made peace. Not because all the answers have been found, but because she knows her sister's spirit deserves rest. "I've carried this for so long," she whispered. "I used to think justice meant punishment. But now I think it means truth, just the truth. She still believes there was more to that night, but she stopped waiting for Hollywood to confess it. The truth always finds a way to rise," she said, "even if it takes a lifetime." In her quiet moments, Lana often visits the ocean, the same ocean that took her sister. She doesn't go there with anger anymore. She goes to talk to Natalie, to feel close to her. "Sometimes I can almost hear her voice," she said. "It's like she's saying, 'It's okay. Lana, let go.' But I always tell her, 'I will. Just not yet.' And maybe that's the truest part of her story. The love that refuses to fade. The bond that even death couldn't break." "I begged her to leave him," Lana said, her voice trembling but steady. "I couldn't save her then, but I can keep her story alive now. That's my promise." For those who remember Natalie Wood as just another Hollywood tragedy, Lana wants them to look deeper, to see the woman behind the stardom, the sister who dreamed, who loved, who deserved better. "She was light," Lana said. "And though the world took her too soon, that light will never go out."